Hi, and good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Rick Weaver here with you, along with Mr. Blake Duckworth, our lead investigator for our Georgia division. How you doing tonight, Blake?
Pretty good, Ricky. How about yourself, brother?
Doing good, man. Just trying to survive. That's basically all we can do through these trying times.
You hanging in there pretty well?
Oh yeah. Just taking it one day at a time. So,
Well,
Blake, have you been out squatching anybody?
not since we went over to John's Mountain.
Or have you not?
No, that's right. That's what I was just about to say. Not this week, but next week. Let's try to get out.
All right,
I can't. I can't this week, but I can next week.
let's plan up a trip over to Blue Ridge if you want to.
So you said they opened it back up over there?
Yeah, they got her open back up over there now, so we can. Well, there's certain trailheads with that area where we went into up that winding star gap. As far as my understanding of it, it is open.
It should be. I know they've pretty much opened everything back up except bars.
Right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're joined by Mr. Matt Champion from Lee County, Alabama. Matt had an encounter he and a group of his friends did in Lee County, Alabama back in 2000. And we're going to bring Matt on and let him tell his encounter. So everybody make Matt feel welcome, and please go and if you haven't done so, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button. Just show us a little love. And Matt, you're live, buddy.
How's it going, Not Map?
How y'all doing?
Oh, we're doing good. Are you having problems hearing us, Matt?
Having a hard time hearing y'all a little bit.
How about me? Can you hear me?
It's cutting in and out. It's a little slow.
Hmm. Can you hear me good, Ricky?
Yeah, I got you good. I can hear both of you really well.
Yeah, I can hear you good, Matt, and I can hear Ricky good.
Matt, you still having problems hearing us, bud?
Well, I can only I can hear questions and then it kind of, but I'm okay, I guess.
Yeah, you're freezing up on my end, Matt. Do you have good Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I have good internet connection, so
Hmm.
I've never streamed, so
Yeah.
it should be fast enough to stream.
Let us know in the chat, guys, if you can hear us.
I can
Everything's
hear you
good in
better
my.
now, Blake.
Okay, what about me, Matt? Can you hear me now, bud?
Yeah, that's a whole lot better.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, everybody that's joining us tonight, I'd just like to welcome you to the board. And like I say, this is Matt. He's going to tell an encounter that he had back in 2000. Matt, take the floor, bud.
Okay. Well, when it happened, I had just turned 15 years old. I'm 35 now. It's been a good 20 years ago. It happened I think it was either January 1st or January 2nd of 2000. Me and two other friends of mine that lived in the neighborhood, we were together, but we lived in a rural of Lee County. Um, One of my friends, his parents owned 25 acres near our house or near my house. And we would go down there, and we stayed down there all the time. There's two big creeks there. It's bordered by hunting land on all sides. Um, we went down there to planning to camp. We went down on the back side of the property, kind of the far end, about as far as away from the as you could get. We're on a creek that kind of est around us. If you could think about a creek making an S shape, we kind of in the bottom half of the S, right there beside the creek. We were surrounded by a lot of privet hedge. It was even though it was wintertime, it was relatively thick down in. We stayed down there. We had never had an encounter like this before. I could go into a bunch of other stories about this land. It's pretty predominantly, let's just say there's a lot of ghost stuff going on around down there that I grew up with. Anyways, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so we go down there. I never thought anything about a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, and really hadn't heard anything about that in this area. What was kind of funny, probably 4 weeks before this happened, this guy in Georgia, probably 20 miles from here in Fort Mitchell, Georgia, is right south of Columbus, Georgia. He had an encounter where something came into his campsite, killed his dog, ran him off, and he went into town and scared to death. The police went back out there, found the dog beat to death. Really something weird like that. And, the guy was it was reported in the Columbus Ledger-Inquirer. So that's the only thing I ever heard around here. But anyways, we go out there, and like I said, I never hunted here, but I'd grown up hunting in the woods, riding four-wheelers. We had never ran into anything like this before. So it wasn't like we weren't accustomed to this land. We've been out there all the time. We went out there, four-wheeler riding. We decided, hey, we're going to camp tonight. It's not that cold, even though it's January. It was probably 50, 60 degrees. It had rained a lot of the day, but the rain had gotten out, but everything was kind of muddy. So we start setting up camp, and there was actually 4 of us at the beginning. My two buddies and my buddy was out there with us, but his little boy whose parents actually owned the land took his little brother back to their house. Was probably a mile and a half away. Well, me and my other friend, it's still daylight, but it's like 4:45. I don't know how it is where you guys are at, but in this part of Alabama, in that time of year, it gets dark about 5:15. So it's about 4:45. So it's a little bit of daylight left. Me and my friend, we're setting up the tents, getting a fire going, and I start hearing something walking on the other side of the. And it sounds like I said, I've been hunting. I grew up in the woods. I know what things sound like in the woods. This sounded different. This sounded like a person. And it was just kind of creeping towards us. You'd hear something, then you'd wait, and then you'd hear it. I'm like, hey, man, is someone out here? You think you hear it? And he's like, yeah, I've been hearing that too. It sounds like somebody's on the other side of the creek. Now, granted, that's not out of the ordinary. It was 4:45 in the afternoon during deer season in Alabama. You might run into somebody in the woods. But it didn't go away. About 5:15, 5:20, it's done got dark. And it's gotten closer. Me and my friend, we're finally like, hey, we yelling into the woods, hey, is someone there? Is someone there? No reply. Sorry, I get nervous thinking about it, even though it's been so long ago. It was on the other side of the creek, but we couldn't see it. I started smelling something. I'm like, hey, man, do you smell that smell? He goes, yeah. I go, it smells like a here. What is that? Then I start getting a little creeped out. Okay, I don't know. The whole vibe in the woods was weird. I don't know how to describe it other than that. About that time, the guy whose family actually owned the land came back up on the four-wheeler, and he stops. He said, hey, what's wrong? Because I guess he could just look on her face. I said, there's something on the other side of the creek. And he starts yelling, hey, if you're out here, you don't need to be out here. You're trespassing, blah, blah, blah. And the guy that owned the land, my friend's dad, was actually a cop. And, hey, I'm going to get my dad. He's a police officer. You don't need to be out here. It didn't go away. We could hear it like walking back and forth across the creek. And finally, I hear it. It's close, and you can almost hear it breathe. We can start hearing weird sounds like I've never heard this before in the woods. Well, being the idiot 15-year-old I am, I've done got scared and pissed off. I pick up a rock that I know I can throw. I played football in high school. I was pretty strong. I'm like, whatever this is, I'm about to scare it or get away from me. We didn't have a gun. Probably a good thing because we would probably started shooting at this thing. But anyways, I throw a rock and don't know how. I don't know if I hit it, but when I threw it, that thing made a noise and it yelped or something. I can't describe the noise it made. It jumped down into the creek, which, by the way, was not. This is a 6-foot drop down into the creek bed. It jumps down into the creek. I hear it run up the creek towards us, jump back onto the opposite bank. Now it's on the same bank as us, and run up into the woods. Guys, this ain't a person. Nothing. I don't know anybody that can move that fast. Plus, if I just hit somebody with a rock, you would think they'd come out like, "Hey, it's just us. We're playing with you. We're messing with you." This thing ran up in the woods, and it came up behind us on the. It's on the other side, and this, like I said, we're down in some thick stuff. You can't see far up into the trees. It's dark. We're scared to death. Me and my other two buddies, I'm like, "Hey, do y'all want to leave? What do y'all want to do?" But by this time, we can hear it walking onto the trail that we got to take to get out of here. So it's on the trail. I grab a flashlight and start walking up the trail. My two buddies behind me like, "Hey, look, y'all got to go. Whoever you are, you got to leave." Now, saying I'm 15 years old, looking back, probably didn't make the greatest decisions when all this was going on. But anyways, I walk up the trail probably 15, 20 yards. My two buddies are right behind me. This thing screams. And when I say scream, y'all know what a Sasquatch scream sounds like. And at this point, I'm not thinking Bigfoot. I don't even think about Bigfoot until I actually see it the day. This thing screams. I've been in the woods life. I've never heard a scream like this. I've heard screech owls. I've heard bobcats. I've never heard something scream like that. It hurt my ears. It was so loud. I pick on my friend now, but he was right. He yells, "That's enough for me," and he takes off running back towards the four-wheelers. I do the same. We hop on the four-wheeler, and even though this thing's somewhere on the trail above us, between us and the way out, we're getting the heck out of here. We jump on the four-wheeler, and we go. And we just keep going, and we go, and we don't see it. I don't see it at this point. One of the other guys, the other two were on the guy that owns the land's four-wheeler. I was by myself. We only had two four-wheelers, but there's three of us. The other guys are behind me. They're doubled up. One of them on the back of theirs says, "Hey, something just tried to grab me." But we don't stop. We just keep going. Now, was that thing? Was he scared? I don't know. All right, so we get out of there. We go get his dad. Like I said, his dad's a cop. He's scared. We're scared. We're scared to death. We go get him. We hang out at his house for a little while. We tell his dad what happened. His dad said, "Let me go out there with you, make sure nobody's out." So he rides back with us. And this guy was a cop, and he always had a gun on him. Whether it was a revolver, a 45 revolver, a 9mm, he always had a gun on him. So we went out there, and he's got his pistol. So we're all like, "Oh, well, whatever it is, he's got a gun." So we go out there, and his dad's acting, I don't say he's acting weird, but he's acting different. And we're like, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so, what do you think it was?" And he said, "Well, I didn't want to scare y'all because y'all have been out here and y'all play out here, y'all ride four-wheelers, y'all do whatever y'all do out here. And I didn't want to scare y'all." He said, "I have seen something out here. I don't know what it is." He said, "All I know is it's big and brown and it walks around on 2 feet." And I was like, "Excuse me?" He's telling us, and I was like, and that was the first time I'm thinking, wait, like some Bigfoot stuff, And he was like, I don't know what it is. He said, all I know is I can tell you is I've seen it. Okay. Well, we go back down there, and I cannot tell you why to this day we made this decision. Somehow we decided to stay. So we camp. Nothing else happens the rest of the night. We're just three boys out there having a good time. None of us were into drinking or drugs, so none of us were doing any of that. We're just out there having a good time. We go to bed. Nothing else happened that night. I wake up the next morning about five-ish. It's still dark. And like I said, nothing happened the rest of that night. So we stayed out there. Sorry, it makes me get kind of thinking about it. I wake up, and the thing is standing next to the tent. I can hear it breathing. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know how big it was. The fire done gone out. I can hear it. It's there. And that smell's back. I laid so still. I've never been so scared in my life than that, probably 30, 45 minutes. I think it was just up there milling around, seeing what we were doing. If it had been up there all night, it did a dang good job of waking us up. I wake up. Of course, I've already said that. I'm hearing it. It kind of walks away from the tent and starts making some weird noises, rustling through the leaves. I don't know what it was doing, but it was keeping up fuss for the next 30, 45 minutes until the sun came up. Well, the sun starts keeping up. The sun came up, and it seemed like as the sun came up, it got farther away. Well, it comes up. It's about 6:15, 6:30. The sun's up, and one of my buddies wakes up, and he looked at me, and he said, "What is wrong with you?" He said I was white as a ghost. I said, "Man, whatever was out here with us last night, it came back, and it's been here for about an hour." So we sat there and we woke the other guy up and said, "Hey, don't freak out, but we think this thing's back." And we eventually got the gall to get out of the tent. It's probably 6:30, 6:45. And we get out. This is before the time of cell phones and stuff. And we didn't have a camera to take pictures. I wish we could have. We walked up the trail a little ways where I thought I heard this thing leave. And in the middle of the trail was a footprint. The footprint, like I said, it had rained the night before. The footprint was probably a good foot long. No arch. You know how a human foot has the arch? This thing was flat. Like the whole foot touches the ground when it steps. I said, "Hey, man, I thought I'd gotten 1,000,000 years, but do y'all see this?" It's talking about this, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't, nobody." I think all of us were too scared to say Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to say. Well, I hear it. It starts making noise on the other side of a hill. I said, "I got to see this thing. I want to see it." Now I'm no Billy Badass. I was scared, but I want to see it. Well, my friends, I think they'd had enough, and that's nothing against them. If I'd be looking back, I probably should have did the same thing they did and turned right around and got on the four-wheeler and left. But I get up over the hill. I look down the hill. On the other side of the hill is the creek. When I look down, there is something in the creek bent over like, I don't know if he was drinking or picking something up. But as soon as I crest, it turns around and looks at me and looks me dead in my eyes, and then it takes off running away from me. It was bipedal. It had to be 6 or 7 foot tall. Now, you hear about these Bigfoot Sasquatches out west, because ever since this happened, I've been interested in the subject. You hear about these big ones out west. I don't know what y'all listen to on YouTube or whatever, but they're always talking about they're 14, 15, something really crazy tall. This thing it looked like a big human, but it wasn't human. It was covered in fur, dark brown to black, maybe because it was been wet. I don't know. But as soon as it saw me, it turned around and ran. And as soon as I saw him, I turned around and ran. And the whole way back to the four-wheeler was like, so is this what Bigfoot is? You know, it finally kind of got in there. That's what I was looking at. And, you know, I don't know what it was, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. All I know is what I saw. And for about 2 months after that, I wouldn't go in the woods by myself. Didn't want to go to the woods at all. Like I said, I hunted. I didn't hunt no more that year. And the next deer season, I didn't like being in the woods by myself after all this happened. But I know on 2 occasions, I would ride by, call me curious, stupid, whatever you want to say, but I would ride by that property going back to my house from my friend's house that lived past that property. I would stop and turn off my four-wheeler, and I know twice I heard that thing scream again. Now, I've not heard it since. That was 2000. I've not heard it since. But twice then, I've been four-wheeler riding in that general area, and something, you know, catch my eye. What the hell was that, you know? And it looked like a person in the woods. And I don't know if that was that same thing or it was somebody. Like I said, I live in Alabama. People tend to be in the woods a lot, people, you know. But, you know, I don't know what else y'all want. That's my story. That's about the only one I got as far as my personal experience. What was funny after this, you know, you go back to school, and of course, me and my other 2 buddies are discussing it, and of course, other people hear it, and everybody thinks you're crazy. But what was funny later in life, I lived in Tuscaloosa for 8 years because I went to the University of Alabama, and I had friends up there that lived up there, and me and my wife, we lived up there for a while, and we have friends. And what was funny, you know, you talk about Bigfoot down here in this part of Alabama, and everybody thinks you're crazy. You know, I've had people tell me I've made it up. I've had people tell me that I hallucinated. You go up there in that part of Alabama, and you tell them what happened. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's no big deal. Let me tell you this story." You know, a person I work with, and this ain't, you know, this was I would say a well-to-do profession. I don't know how we got on the subject of Bigfoot one day, but all I said was, yeah, I think I might have saw one day. And this woman I worked with, who I never thought in a million years would say this, says, "Oh yeah, there's a Bigfoot that lives up on Lake Lurleen, which is a lake north of Tuscaloosa. There's a Bigfoot that lives up there. Me and my husband, we see him every time we go up there and go camping. Like it was no big deal." And then I worked at a high school, and I was a teacher at one time. And these kids in this coal mining area that I lived in, very rural part of Alabama, up near Tuscaloosa, they talked about Bigfoot like it was talking about a squirrel. You know, it was like a common knowledge type thing. So it's very weird how you go to different parts of the state, maybe different parts of the country, how people treat you when you had an experience like this. But, you know, guys, I can talk about whatever y'all want about what happened if y'all got questions or whatnot. But that's pretty much what I got.
Go ahead, Rick.
Ricky. Okay. Now, I got a few questions. All right. So you were just talking about like the stuff for the paranormal on the land and stuff like that. So other than his dad seeing it, that, you know, talking about he had seen it, what exactly? Because I mean, just because some people, you know, seem to think that there's a connection between paranormal and Bigfoot. What happened on the land? I mean, can you?
It wasn't. Yeah, sorry, not to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
This land that I grew up on used to be an old plantation.
Okay, so
it was cotton fields, but yeah, I mean, it's Alabama. It used to be cotton fields and slaves, and Let me just tell you this. Growing up, there was no idea, and some people look at me crazy now. And if you think I'm crazy, I guess I'm crazy. But growing up where I grew up, ghosts, that was just a run-of-the-mill thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard ghosts, saw ghosts, experienced ghosts my whole childhood. Now, on that particular land, I never saw anything. That where we saw whatever I saw. I'd never seen a ghost down there.
Has anybody else ever heard any, the sound you described when you threw the rock at it, or any type of howls or?
Not that I know of.
Not you know of.
Now, well, I take that back. My dad still lives there. I was out there today, so I still go out there all the time, and I've camped out there many times, and even after this happened, my dad has said he's heard something, and Dad grew up trapping. Dad grew up in the woods even more than I did. One night, me and him were out in the woods camping, and we heard a sound, and I don't think this was a Sasquatch. I don't know what it was, but all I know is my dad said, I don't know what that was. But something happens weird out there all the time. And it's just like, is this just, like you said, a lot of people connect Bigfoot with paranormal. Is this just part of it? Is Bigfoot paranormal? Or was it an animal? What did I see? But as far as other people having experiences, yeah, well, funny you should ask. A girl I work with right now, like today, saw her today at work. Her husband grew up down the street from me. They camped out, and this is probably a half a mile from the property where I saw this thing. And one day at work, we were talking, and she would just talk about camping behind her husband's house. I said, oh, well, be careful out there just playing. She said, wow, what do you mean? She froze. I was just joking. Like, I never told her this story before.
Yeah.
She goes, wow, what do you mean? I go, uh-oh. I said, did you see something out there? And she goes, yeah. I go, okay, what'd you see? Well, we didn't see it. She said, but me and my husband were out there camping one night, and something came up to the tent, touched the tent, and then when we said, hey, who are you? What are you doing? It just ran off. And she said, it sounded like a train running through the woods. She said, whatever it was big. And she said, she was scared to death telling me that, and we're at work. So that's the only, I'm really trying to make sure I'm trying to remember everything. I think, Dad hearing a few things, and what that girl told me is the only actual other people having experiences that were not connected with mine that I know of.
Yeah, so the area is not like well known for Sasquatch and Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it.
Not that I know of.
Now the surrounding land,
previously.
Like how rural is the surrounding land? How far is it to say mountain ranges or to cities, or how much area do you think is actually in that area?
The nearest town's probably 10 miles. Like the nearest town's Auburn, Opelika.
Okay, so it's fairly rural.
Yeah, I'm sure y'all watch football, so y'all know where Auburn is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably 10 miles to Auburn. It's probably 30 miles the other way to Columbus. All this was, this is all either privately owned hunting land, privately owned homesteads, or it's owned by the electric company.
So 70% of the property. I'd say what would you say? 70% of the property covered in timber?
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Now,
yes,
as far as water sources, are there any rivers, creeks, lakes, ponds? I know you said all over that creek. Yeah.
That ain't the only creek in around that area. There's numerous creeks. There's a couple of lakes, like man-made lakes. The nearest river is the Chattahoochee that runs down there beside Columbus, Georgia. Okay. So the nearest river is 30 miles. But as far as creeks and lakes, if something was out there living, he's got plenty of water.
All right, now you said this happened on this one particular piece of property. What about other properties surrounding the area? Have there been any reports of anything strange going on there?
I mean, other than what other than the guy that said this something walked into his campsite and killed his dog, I've not heard anybody say, ooh, look, there's a Bigfoot. Not that I know of. And after this happened, I mean, I kind of had my ear to the ground looking for, hey, has anybody else been seeing stuff like this? You don't go around asking it, but you kind of listen up, but not that I know of.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
far as when it ran and jumped down in, or when it jumped down into the creek, could you tell? I mean, I know it's hard to tell, but did it sound like a bipedal creature, or could you? Could you tell at all if it sounded like a bipedal creature, or did it sound like it was on? Or just
It's
really wasn't couldn't distinguish.
I couldn't distinguish if it had 2 legs or 4 legs, but all I know is it jumped down into a 6-foot deep creek. Where the creek's not that deep, but the hole is where the creek's running. It jumped into that, ran a few steps, jumped right back up the other embankment, which is also 6 foot.
Now, did it sound like it was pretty long strides when it was running? Was the footsteps pretty close together, or were they actually time in between the footsteps?
No, it was long strides, and when I saw it running away from me, it was long strides. I mean, this thing moved like I've never seen a person move. I mean, it was fast.
I know, Matt, you were talking about the size of these things earlier, compared to what they have out west to what they are here. Would you say that this creature that you saw, do you think it was a full-grown Sasquatch, or do you think maybe it might have been a juvenile?
I think it was a juvenile. After I did, it's funny you asked that. I was about to say that. After I kind of researched it a little bit, and like I said, I've been interested in this sort of thing since this happened, just because this happened to me. When you see pictures and descriptions of what they, people out west or even people, if you can get on BFRO or BFRO and read what people see, even in the Southeast, and even they describe something that's 10, 11 foot tall. This thing wasn't that tall. It was at most 8. I mean, it was tall compared to me, but it was real skinny. It looked really lanky. It wasn't, real. They always talk about how muscular these things are. This one looked really skinny. It didn't look really muscular. Don't get me wrong. It was big. I bet it weighed 200-300 pounds. But if you look at these pictures of, what they describe out west,
it just wasn't pure muscle.
Right. So I tend to think it was a younger one, maybe a teenage one. I don't know.
Well, and I'm a firm believer. Far as us as humans, we differ. Body shapes, body sizes, heights. Who's to say that all of them are going to be exactly the same build? Right. I'm sure you're going to have ones that are more muscular than others. That would only make sense. Now, far as, did you see the face at all? Did you? What other than it being skinny? What stood out most to you about the creature? What are some details about the creature?
Just how much hair it had on it. It was and it looked really matted and kind of scraggly.
About how long was the hair?
It was hanging off of his face. So I don't know if that was because it was wet or what. It was hanging off of his face. When he turned around, you could see it moving. But he had a really wide nose. I remember that. And his eyes were almost, I don't remember seeing it. Like, I know he looked at me because he turned and I could see his nose, but his eyes were so black. I can't remember, like, oh, look, there's his eyes. It's like it was just, his eyes were almost black looking. They were so dark, and his skin looked like brown, almost black. Or she, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but, that's about as much details I can give you as far as that, because he turned and looked and then he was gone.
Now, could you tell if the nose was like, how our nose sets down lower from our space in between our eyes and our nose? That's one thing that reported. Was the nose up higher than, say, our nose? I mean, far as where it sits? I mean, or did you even?
I really didn't think about it when I saw it. I
Yeah.
guess it'd be about the same height as us. It was just wide. I remember it being really wide, but it didn't seem farther up or down. It just seemed really wide.
You got any other questions, Ricky?
Um,
Anybody in the chat?
Now you think this thing is? You said you thought this thing was juvenile.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it actually? Do you think the creature is still using that area now, even after all these years?
Well, I'll tell you this about, and I don't even, I'll just say this and you make your own judgment. One night I was driving home from my dad's. Like I said, he still lives out there. And away from him down the hill, away from his house on the road. And I'm driving. I got my high beams on because it's dark and it's been cloudy. I can't remember what year this was. It's been recent, last 5 or 6 years. And I look and I'm just like, what is that? It's on the side of the road, but it's kind of up in the trees. And I don't know what this was. This could have been anything. But all I know is a sweet gum tree that was about 8 or 9 foot tall. It just starts flapping. Like there's no wind. And I don't know if something was standing there. And then I don't know if it ducked up into the woods or what. And that tree started flapping. And I don't know if I guess because I had this experience automatically, oh, there he is again. But it's like he stepped into the woods, and I don't know if he had his hand on the tree or what, but when he stepped, that tree just flapped back and forth. And I remember calling my dad, hey, I saw something again. Y'all think I'm crazy, but, I don't know if it could have been anything. But all I know is that tree started flapping really hard for no reason. And, other than that, I haven't had an experience with anything like that since then. So as far as he's still out there, I don't know.
No.
Maybe. The only question I have is because I hunt, and I would tend to say no. I hunt, and I've got I usually keep a game camera behind my dad's house year round, just because we got so many deer that come up in the yard. I just like taking pictures of them. Now I don't think this thing would be stupid enough to walk up in someone's yard. Probably not anyway. But as many hunting cameras as I have out in the woods at any given time, you would think, why not gotten a picture of this thing? Because I haven't. And, maybe they're smart enough to avoid it. I don't know. But that's not, as far as, is he still living out there? I don't know. I haven't had any experiences in a long time. I haven't heard anything in a long time. He might not want to live out there. Places ate up in coyotes. But as far as the answer is, I don't know I don't think he still lives out there.
Now, how long have you got your family on the land, or how long have y'all been on that land?
Since I was 2 or 3 years old.
So
I grew up there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't leave home till I was 18 or 19. So
you were there for
I stayed out there a while.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As far as this encounter was concerned, I know this happened. You said when you were 15. How has it affected you as far as has it made you more aware of your surroundings when you're outside now, when you're in the woods, compared to what it was beforehand?
Most definitely. I grew up in the woods, and I guess it would be kind of, I don't know, hard for any man to admit this. I don't like being in the woods at night by myself. I can't stand it. It scares me. And since then, got people with me, I'm good. But even now, you know, I deer hunt. Sometimes you got to be out in the woods after dark by yourself if you're deer hunting, especially if you get something. If you go in the morning, it's going to be dark when you get out there. It still creeps me out. And I don't really remember being that way until after this happened. As far as what's funny is when this happened, it scared me so bad. I had nightmares. I had bad dreams for a while about this thing. Oddly enough, it happened into adulthood. Like even when I don't, you know, the woods still, like I said, if I'm out in the woods at night by myself, if I'm out in the woods during the day by myself, it don't bother me. But if I can't see, it tends to bother. But even into adulthood, I got over it. I would still have nightmares periodically about it. It just pop up out of nowhere, and I don't really talk about it all that often because most of my family don't believe me. They believe I saw something. Some friends just outright say they don't think it happened. You know, but as far as how's it changed me, when I was younger, if people started, like, let's say you're just around a campfire with some boys and y'all are telling stories. If I would tell this story freely, you know, just freely. I quit doing it because so many people acted like I was nuts or I was just making it up. And now I don't really discuss it all that much anymore because I think either A, makes people uncomfortable, or B, they think you're crazy. So as far I get experience just made me more aware of, even though people know you as a truthful person, doesn't mean they're going to believe everything you say. But as far as the woods, I remember it's just leave it right there. Sorry.
You're fine.
But as far as the woods, back then it scared me so bad I'd be like, I never want to see this thing again. I think today if I saw it, I'd be scared, but I would just be like, just leave it alone and let it do its thing. And if he wants me to leave, I'm going to leave. I wouldn't mind seeing one again. I don't know if that'll ever happen because I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I actually kind of consider myself kind of lucky that I did see it. Because I know a lot of people say they see things and they're, you know, maybe they didn't see it. I know what I saw. I saw something that was flashing blood running through the woods that I'd never seen before.
Now, when you said you guys had went to sleep and you woke up and it was on the outside of the tent, what ran through your brain at that point in time? Did you feel like you were going to get attacked, or I mean,
I guess I was hoping that didn't happen.
I'm sure fear took over at that point, though, regardless of what was really going on in the situation.
I was scared. I was scared. Looking back, I don't think this thing ever had any intention of hurting us. It could have.
Yeah, if it was going to, it could have.
But if it wanted to hurt us, it could have. I think it wanted us to leave, and that was it. Or it wanted us to leave, or B, if it was a juvenile, he was just curious. What are they doing? Who are they? What are they doing out in the woods? And then, you know, me being the dummy I was, I guess, or maybe not. I don't know if it might have been smart, it might have been dumb, but throwing and hitting it with a rock couldn't have, you know, been very good for relations, I guess. But yeah. You know, but you know, I don't know. It still baffles me that I saw it, and you know, it's also maybe when people say, you know, I've seen this. I don't know if every one of them's telling the truth, but I tend to listen before I just dismiss it. it's just really interesting stuff because I still have no idea what I saw. I mean, I know what I saw, but I don't know what it was.
Have you ever felt the need to or question what you saw? I mean, like, did I really see that type situation, or you're 100% sure what it was?
I'm 100% sure what I saw.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think I hallucinated that. I'm not that creative. And
it's just a question.
This is not something. No, that's fine. I never really thought about it before. I'd heard of Bigfoot, the whole legend or whatever, but that seemed like something that, oh man, that's out in California. That's out in Montana. That's out in Oregon. There ain't no Bigfoot in Alabama, but maybe there is.
Well, tell you, here in North Georgia is one of the biggest. I mean, it's one of the most. I mean, other than California, I mean, it's probably one of the biggest hot spots they are. I mean, close to it at least. So I mean, you're just the next state over.
Right, and we're at the bottom of. I mean, you are up there near the Appalachian Mountains, or you are in the Appalachian Mountains.
But you do have.
I'm down here in the foothills, and it's
now
Mount Cheahaw is not far from me.
So you
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So are you South Alabama? What I'm not for sure. My brain ain't working now.
Do you know where Columbus is? Columbus, Georgia?
Yes.
I'm literally right across the river from Columbus, Georgia, like 20 miles.
Okay.
So mid-state.
Mid-state.
I'm probably 2 hours from Atlanta. If that. Matters how fast you can go.
Yeah.
I know now a lot of that area down in that part of the country is a lot of swamp land and bottom land down in there. My son and I used to hunt a place down there, Oaky Woods, WMA, which is located, I think, about 20 miles from Warner Robins, and we've had a lot of encounters with pigs, things of that nature down there, but never with Sasquatch in that area.
Mm-hmm. And y'all can think, like I said, y'all can think what you want, but
no, we're. What if I 100% believe you? If you heard my story, you would think I'm crazy.
No. What if they migrate?
I saw a family, so.
Mike and I both have had encounters, so we know yeah exists.
Yeah, well, no judgment here.
My question is, do they migrate? I mean, I saw this one during the wintertime. Was he coming down into the swamp because it was wintertime? He don't want to be up in the mountains during the wintertime,
There's an area that Blake and I go to. We frequent a lot, about 20 miles from our home, and the area down there, it seems like in the wintertime, early spring, you get a lot of activity, but then on up in midsummer, late fall, you don't really get that much activity. So that's something that I look at a lot is the migration.
Wintertime kind of like the main. I mean, you'll have stuff happen here and there, but wintertime, especially when we first started having everything happen down there, that was the main. Of course, that may just be because of the timeline of everything started happening, and that's when we really started going down there. But I mean, and that's the thing. As far as like the Appalachian Trail, yeah, I mean they're kind of proof. Well, I wouldn't say proof, but I mean we very, hardly believe that they use it for a migration route. I mean, they I believe that they do. They follow trails like that. And I mean, if they migrate there to a certain extent, I mean, I'm sure that's it's a nature thing, I guess. I mean, just like birds migrate, so forth. I mean, who knows?
Well, I've always felt that these things migrate with the food source.
Yeah, wherever food's going to be, where they're going to be.
If you've got a good food source, they're going to be there. If not, they're not.
Right.
and I feel very strongly on that. That area you're talking about down there, Todd, was there a lot of, you say there are a lot of deer in that area, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, I think other than Pennsylvania, Alabama has the biggest deer harvest in the country every year. I might be wrong. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
check me on that. But from what I understand, we kill a lot of deer in Alabama every year. And a lot of them beats, there's a lot of folks that kill deer around here. So, yeah, there's plenty of
Well,
that running around in the woods.
and that's what crossed my mind about it being skinny is, maybe it's malnourished, but I mean, maybe it's one of those circumstances. Maybe it had something wrong with it.
That
Maybe it
too.
was sick, or that goes on. You can speculate on that however you want, but
Maybe it equates people with food. Maybe he steals food. I don't know. We didn't have any food out there that night. One of your people just asked if it was a hard throw or a toss. I slung that rock. It wasn't no toss. It was a overhand, trying to scare something / injure something throw.
you threw it with a purpose.
Exactly.
Now, there was something else I was going to ask. Sorry.
You're good.
Blake had a brain freeze.
Well, yeah, my brain's over here. I had to listen to that whole story and remember things I wanted to ask. You got any other questions, Ricky? Maybe I can sit here and think of it now.
Yeah, I know, Todd. Let me ask you this, bud. Or Matt, I'm sorry. Since this experience, as far as becoming involved with Bigfoot and with any type of research on Bigfoot, what's been your goal on that?
Well, I do know this. I don't know if I've ever had a goal other than just try to figure out what maybe compare my experience with other people, what they say they saw. As far as, I'll put it this way: every time I go in the woods now, I'm looking. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. And a lot of people are like, well, they're easy to find if you know what to look for. I don't know what to look for, but I'm looking. If I'm in the woods, my eyes are peeled because ever since then, it's been like, one, I might need to watch my back, but two, I'd like to see it again.
Yeah, and
Whatever it was.
it kind of makes you
Um,
second guess everything too, to a certain extent. I mean, just stories and what's in our woods, really. And I mean, it opens up your mind to a whole different realm of.
and how much we don't know.
Yep, yep. We
Oh,
definitely know a lot less than what we do know.
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
that's something I agree on completely. It really changes your aspect, your outlook on everything. It really does. I know since 1981, my hunting habits, everything basically has changed. And I'm kind of like you are, even after all these years. Uh, Matt, I'm all the time looking over my shoulder as far as when I go in the woods or basically anywhere else. I mean, and it does that to you.
You
it
can't help but want to
does,
look.
but I do. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Blake.
I said you can't help but when you go into the woods, it makes you want to notice everything you can notice.
Right. Um, this past year, I was deer hunting, and I noticed a bunch of trees had all fallen, but they're all falling across one another, and it was in a weird spot too, and it was in a spot where I hunt. It was right beside it, and I mean, we get thunderstorms here. It's not out of the question that the wind knocked them all down and they all fell on one another, but they didn't fall the same way. They all fell. I can't show you, but they all fell like this. But it was like 3 or 4 of them, you know, and was going. And one big one was going across the trail, and it popped in there. Hey, what if he's out here and he's telling me he don't like me going down there? You know, call me crazy, call me whatever, but it pops in there after you've seen what I saw.
And you would have probably
You know,
never
what else?
You'd probably never even thought
What
about
else?
that if
It just looked weird. What did
yeah.
that, and why is it like that? You know, and like I said, more than likely the wind did it, rain did it, whatever. It's just one of those
seemed
things that
weird.
happens. But it was odd. And now every time I see something odd, it's like, I wonder what did that.
Could that have been the man?
Yeah.
Well, Matt, what is your thoughts, buddy? I'm gonna close out with this. What is your thoughts as far as what these creatures are actually capable of doing? If you encounter one of them, you know, each week I tell my guests that my feeling with these things and the encounters that I've had and that my buddies have had with it. I tell them to if they encounter one of them to back out of the woods. You know, give it its space, that's its home, and leave them alone. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
That respect them. They need to be respected for two reasons. They're way bigger than you. They're way stronger than us. This thing, malnourished, sick, young, whatever it was, I saw how fast it ran. It ran faster than any person I've ever seen. They're highly capable animals, beings, whatever you want to call it. They need to be respected. If you see one, leave them alone. Don't be Billy Badass and try to shoot it. Just leave it alone. You know, a lot of people are like, well, let's kill one. If we ever see one, kill one and bring it so we can. If you ever see one, just leave it alone. You know, I guess the bleeding heart of me, I'm not a bleeding heart, but part of me is just, if they are real, I kind of like how it is. People really don't know. Just leave them alone. There's something special, whatever they are. Just leave them alone. That would be my thoughts on it. Do we need to go poke and prod and see what we can find out about them? Sure, there's nothing wrong with curiosity. But as far as overexposing them, I kind of hope we don't. That's just me.
Hey, my feelings exactly.
Same here.
People, I mean, we can't even take care of ourselves. I mean, look at what we're going through right now as a country. We can't even take care of ourselves. Do we really want to add them to the fray? You know, whatever they are, just leave them alone.
Well said, Matt. Well said.
Very well said.
Matt, buddy, we appreciate you having you on the show tonight.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
We really enjoyed it. Hey, man, in a future date, if you have any more encounters or you want to come back on and share anything else with us, just hit us up and we'd be glad to have you back.
Well, I appreciate it. Anytime y'all want me on, and I'll talk about whatever y'all want to talk about.
Yes.
Hey, maybe next time we'll talk about some of that paranormal stuff going on down there.
Hey, I got stories.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that's another thing I do. That's another thing I do is a paranormal investigate. So is Ricky.
Well,
so we understand the.
Well, let me tell you something. I thought I wanted to be a paranormal investigator too, because like I said, I grew up with it, and I had something follow me home. And I'll leave it at that. And I want to talk about that one day we can.
Yeah.
My word to you is be good with the Lord, and be careful what you step into, because I think there's a veil there that is meant to be there. You might not want to lift it up too high.
Yeah, I understand.
Just from my friendly advice, you do you, but just my friendly advice: be careful.
Well, me and Rick had something follow us home a couple years ago, so we kind of nothing malicious by any means, but we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah,
all right,
man.
Matt,
Hey,
buddy.
anytime y'all want me on, just let me know.
All right, dude, appreciate it, man.
Matt.
See you later, Matt.
Have a good one.
All right, thank you. Well, bud, how do you think that went?
I like the guy. I believe him. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. All right, folks. This brings us to the end of another broadcast. I want everyone to thank Blake for being here with me, helping me stumble through this. Uh, Wayne, I'll pay you back, buddy. All right, folks. Everybody remember, go to our Mannimal Research webpage. Let us know what you thought about tonight's show. Also, click on the subscribe button and show us a little love. Show YouTube that you like what you're hearing, and welcome to all the people that was here tonight, and also the ones that will watch it in the future. Blake, we're out of here, buddy. Thank you
All
for
right,
tonight.
guys. Have a good night, guys.
Hang on here just a minute. I'm trying to end this.